All right, my friends, today is September the 22nd. It is Monday. Let's go ahead and get into the market outlook and plans for the week ahead. All right, so let's go ahead and start off by diving into TradFi. So let's just keep this short and sweet. Start off with the S&P. I'm going to skip over the NAS today because they're more or less the same. Here's what I want to say about the S&P. Main plans absolutely remain the same. This is still a very clear dip buying asset. Going to remain dip buying and DCAing into this. No intentions of profit taking on that. If we do get what I suggested, could potentially come at the Q4 open as a wipeout in markets, right? If equities pull back in early Q4, that's going to be something that I'm going to aggressively dip buy for continuation plays into later in the year. So no dramatic changes, right? These assets are obviously ridiculously strong. You look at the NAS, you look at the S&P, they're just, it feels like all-time highs every week that goes by, a new all-time high. So the plans remain the same. But I'm much more interested in discussing today is metals. So metals are really popping off right now. So as I've expressed many times, I do think that gold is going to continue on this track higher. I don't own any gold. I own silver instead, which we'll go over next. But essentially, it's all clear skies for gold. Clearly into all-time high territory right now. Every day, new all-time high. So we'll just see how far this goes. As central banks continue to accumulate gold, this trajectory towards 4K seems pretty imminent, to be honest. My personal bet has been on silver, which recently has been an underperformer. But on days like today, a little bit more juice in it. Silver is a little bit further away from all-time high. Maybe $1.50 away from there, roughly. My expectation is that, silver is going to keep doing what it's doing. It's going to get carried up by gold. Not too dissimilar to the argument around Bitcoin carrying up something like Solana, right? It's the same kind of idea. Part of me wishes I had originally chosen to allocate to gold, and maybe I'll eventually start to rebalance that a little bit so that I have exposure to gold instead of just being all in on silver. But yeah, we're just going to keep running with the same plans for now. So that's pretty much it for the TradFi stuff. If you get a dip in equities in Q4, you want to buy it and continue to expect the Ponzi to run it up. As far as metals go, plans are pretty similar. You want to buy dips on metals. I don't think that metals are the thing that you put in your port into when you're actually seeking growth. It's just really just that inverse play against risk, right? So on days like today when my equity or my crypto port is down, at least my equity and commodities port's up. So all these things kind of balance each other out in the long run. All right, let's go ahead and get over into the serious stuff. Let's start off with the Bitcoin macro. So Bitcoin macro, no dramatic changes, right? Still operating off the same plans. Patiently waiting for my main core plan to play out, which it looks like it is, right? So a medium time frame, we're going to have more in-depth plans, but keeping it light for the macro bit. It looks like the kind of fuck you move at the end of Q3 has just come. That's what just came. This is something I talked about. I think that there's going to be something that made it uncomfortable for bulls, either at the beginning or at the end of Q3 or the beginning of Q4. We still could have a bit of a pullback in Q4, and if that's the case, you're going to want to buy that. But the Q3, summertime chop is coming to an end. It's time for a regime shift in the way of momentum and volatility. I think that you just need to be patient for just a couple more weeks, and that's right around the corner. You gotta, choose to be an optimist, right? That being negative or being optimistic is a choice in life. Yes, you'll have circumstances that will push you in one direction or the other, but at the end of the day, it's a choice. And choosing optimism in these markets is what pays. It's that simple. As far as levels go, same argument as last week because we're just still wedged between 120 and 110. So 110's macro support, 120 macro resistance. Once we break one of those, directionally, that'll be a pretty clear signal to see continuation. I obviously, have most of my plans resolving higher. Medium time frame, first things first is going to be covering this doodle. So this is a doodle I shared with you guys last week. The idea that, we had, you had this like bear structuring, right, where all the VWAPs are above. You pull back above it, right, and you're way above it. Everyone's really optimistic, right? The idea is you're going to want to pull back, right, and then have that structural shift. So the main talking point right now for everybody should be, are we seeing the structural shift, right? Because locally, structure was pointed to the downside, right? Still to the point of the downside. So your main conversation, your main argument right now, are we forming that key higher low, right? And if we form a key higher low from here, that's going to be a structural shift that's going to be the base that we've been looking for that up on the Q4 thesis. So I'm paying very close attention to how we develop this week, and I would urge you to do the same. So that's pretty much that, right? We're trading into macro sport right now. 112 to 110 is is what I talked about. That's the area you want to buy. I called the idea of 113 and 112 being the key zone to actually bid, and the idea of basically below 110k being rough invalidation. I don't actually think you want to place your stop there by any means, but you get my point, right? I've been sharing this trade for a while now. So I talked about the levels, the higher low, right? That is the main talking point, right? I talked about the idea of doing a pullback in the direction of the range low to form that higher low. If we can lock in the higher low, we can rally up here in the direction of the Q4 open, probably some sort of fuck you, and then higher, right? Very, very simple. So I just wanted to make this note on intraday really quickly. So I shared an intraday trade today. I've shared a few here and there. I just wanted to throw this out there. If you guys, I know the answer to this question anyways, that you guys want to see more of that, but just let me know if you guys want to see that stuff. I would like to do that because generally speaking, the feedback is really great and we're here to learn. So I'll try to stick with that more for sure. So that's basically it for the altcoin conversation. My watch lists have more or less remained the same. Realistically, there's no real reason to be flying into alts just yet. We need to wait for Bitcoin to lock in the structural shift, show us a little bit of life, and then I'm going to let you guys know when I start to buy alts. Don't worry, I will let you guys know. That's pretty much it for the altcoin conversation. The TLDR was wait, right? That was pretty much the only note I had written down was the watch list and wait. So there you go. It's time to wait. Closing thoughts for content. So you guys can obviously expect any analysis, any trades, and any education that I make. That's going to get shared with you. My focus the past few weeks has been to focus on my health and just kind of mental recovery to recuperate before Q4, because when things get hectic, if I'm right and we go up in Q4, guys, I mean, it's just such an overwhelming amount of work that you have to do during those periods to maximize the momentum, and it just cooks your brain. So it's really wise to let yourself have a period to just chill every now and then. Don't get me wrong, I'm over here, I'm still trading, I'm still working, still getting stuff done, but if I feel like the afternoon rolls around and I feel like going to the park with the puppy or doing something more chill, I'm going to capitalize and just enjoy myself a little bit more here and there. And I do that so that when the time comes to really work super hard, I'm committed, I'm ready to go, right? Very common mistake that I've made many times in my career, and I'm sure many other people make, right, is that you burn yourself out during the boring periods, and then when the fun time comes, you're already cooked. So it's very wise to have that recovery period in the boring stages, and make note around how this year played out, how last year played out. Pretty much every year is going to have somewhat of a similar pattern where you're afforded boring times in the summer, and that's when you focus on your health, your family, your friends, whatever, right? Focus on recovery in the summertime. So that's it for me, guys. Good luck out there. Let me know if you have any questions or confusion or anything, and definitely let me know if you want more intraday trades. Cheers, guys.